Det är så mycket mer så bara tidvatten. Ja. Jag vill se något mycket på här.
Sounds good to me. Oh, what?
Snälla, jag vill väldigt det är bara
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the name of the vessel you're on today is the Millennium of Peace. And we are going to turn the boat very shortly. We're going to go up the river to Westminster. It takes about 20 minutes. We have to mention the safety when we leave the Peace. Now, these boats are fully equipped with life rafts on the roof, life jackets in the lockers, and me and my colleague, Waterman and Lightman. Now, we're both freemen of this river. We all serve a 5-year apprenticeship on the Thames, so in very safe hands. Now, before we turn the boat, look to your left, the famous fortress, the Tower of London. So you get a nice photograph before we turn the boat and go up to Westminster. Now, we do pass many buildings and bridges along the way, and they do not employ or hire professional guides. There's no commentators employed here, but as the crew, we're only too happy to point out the buildings for you, and hopefully we make it a bit more interesting, a bit more enjoyable. So would that be okay? Would you like a commentary, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
About 3 of us. Very encouraging. Okay, I know you might have a bit of trouble understanding me. I know there's a lot of foreign speaking passengers. But I'm not multilingual. But I will speak as slowly as I can and say I do hope it will be of some interest. Now we'll start away on the left. The Tower of London. Parts of it date right the way back to 1078. It's been a palace, a residence, an observatory, but most famously a place of imprisonment, torture and execution. On the river wall, Traitor's Gate, the bricked up archway. And years ago, traitors were taken through the archway to be imprisoned or executed at the tower. The common form of execution, beheading with a large blunt axe. And some very famous people went through the archway. Lady Jane Grey, Anne Boleyn, Guy Fawkes, Walter Raleigh. I think the bravest man was from Scotland. In 1305, William Wallace, Braveheart. Or maybe better known to some of us as Mel Gibson. But he was undrawn and quartered William Wallace in the tower, very gruesome. And it's home to the Crown Jewels today. And as we spin the boat, we turn the boat, we get the wheel box out of the way, and you get a lovely side-on view of Tower Bridge. It was opened in 1894. The centre part of the bridge can be lifted to allow tall ships in and out of this part of the river. Years ago, this bridge used to open roughly 20 times a day. A very busy river, lots of shipping taking place. In the early 80s, all the shipping finished, and we're now lucky if it opens about twice a week. They've turned the top part into a museum. It's about £6 to go up there. But when this was a very busy bridge, what you could have done, as the bridge opened, you could have walked up one tower and crossed over the top free of charge. Well, completely free, 24 hours a day. So they've now been turned into a museum. The scaffolding on the centre part is because they're going to repaint the bridge. If you look at the road level, the centre part that opens is a lighter colour to the outer sides. So it's all being painted for the Olympics 2012. A lot of people, they call it London Bridge. So that's Tower Bridge on the left. The one in front of us, that is London Bridge. And that one up there, that is the 5th London Bridge. The first ever London Bridge was built in that part of the river ahead of us 2,000 years ago. The Romans, when they invaded London, they built a bridge at that point. The Tower Bridge behind us, London Bridge ahead of us. And in the river, to our left, ahead of us, a warship, the HMS Belfast. She was built in Belfast at Northern Ireland, in the same shipyard as the Titanic. It's a museum today, it's free for the children. She saw lots of action in the Second World War. She sunk the Sharples, the German battleship, and she bombed the beaches of Normandy. Now to crew it, it needed 800 men, and not one person ever lost their life while serving aboard the ship. Now when you look to the front of the vessel, you'll see a flag, the Union Jack. That is the only time we officially call it the Union Jack. The flagpole that it's flying from, there's a crown on top of it. It's a jackstaff. That's why it's called the Union Jack. If you saw the same flag flying from a building like on the right, the Union flag. So I've only ever called the Union Jack in the front of a British naval ship. And above the buildings on your left, a new office block building going up, the Shard. That will soon be the tallest building in Europe. When completed in 2012, that will be 1,300 feet high. The tallest building in Europe, the Shard. To the right, we cross the river, the yellow brick building, the old Billingsgate Fish Market. There was a market there for over 400 years. They moved out of there 20 years ago. They went further down the river to bigger premises at Canary. Now the only fish you're going to see there today are on the roof. The golden fish. They're still used as weather vans. And that blue glass building, the headquarters for the HSBC. of the richest banks in the world. And it was all designed by an Italian. And he was a very, very clever, unemployed window cleaner called Luigi the Squeegee. I'm just making sure you're listening. Now look to the right, between the buildings, the monument to the Great Fire of London, designed by Christopher Wren to resemble a candle. A candle started the fire in a bakery in Pudding Lane. And here we go, we're passing through London Bridge. The first one built by the Romans, this one 1973 was on. The bridge before this one, it was sinking into the mud. We sold it in the early 70s. The Americans bought it for $2 million. It was all taken down, shipped over to California and driven to the desert. It now spans the lower Colorado River, Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert. Has anyone ever seen it? Some of you have. Well, it's in America. So it stood in London for over a century. It's in America today. And especially for the children, for the boys and girls, to our left, a pirate ship. The working replica of the Golden Hind. The captain of that famous ship, Sir Francis Drake. He was the first Englishman to sail a ship around the world in 1577. He returned to England 3 years later with over £10 million worth of gold and silver. It was all given to the Queen Elizabeth, and he was knighted for his efforts. And this bridge here, Cannon Street, a railway, the station on the right. Beneath the station, a glass box, a relaxation spa. You'll see people lounging about, taking it nice and easy. Yeah, all over there to the right, the very busy railway, Cannon Street. Now the tide's flooding. You can see the columns of the bridge here, look, the tide pushing us along. Those barges on the right will be floating in about 3 hours. This tide will now flood for 5 hours. So in 3 hours time, they'll start to float. They've been loaded with rubbish, black bags, rubbish that you put out for your dustbin bin. They end up here at the riverside walls. The rubbish goes in the boxes. Those barges are then towed down the river to a place called Essex, where they spread the rubbish across the marshy lands at Raynham and London. It's all used for land reclamation. So the North Sea, about 20 miles behind us. The tide, it floods in for 5 hours and it goes out for 7. There's a rise and a fall of about 25 feet, nearly 8 metres, so a very tight river. A lot of the area away to your left, bankside, has been redeveloped. Office buildings, restaurants. In the Elizabethan days, this was the entertainment area. No entertainment was allowed in the city to the right. This was a very religious city, so it all took place here to the left. You had dog fighting, bear baiting, gambling dens, and theatres. And if you look on your left, behind the trees, there is the replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Now that was opened about 10 years ago. And if you look at the roof of the building, it's a thatched roof. And it's the only thatched roof allowed in London since the Great Fire in 1666. Every day of the week in the summer, they reenact all of those famous plays. It's an open roof, so it's always best to take an umbrella, because if it rains, you will get wet. And the show still continues in all weathers. So take a brolly, it's a lovely building, the Globe Theatre on the left. Now we've got a very busy footbridge here, and it's best to wave to the people as you pass by. It keeps them happy. But it's well famous as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge, opened in the millennium year. There were so many people trying to cross the bridge at once, it started to move. It was swinging. It became unsafe. They took everyone off, closed it, re-strengthened it, and it's now quite safe. But if you look to the right, between the buildings, it really spoils a lovely view of St Paul's Cathedral, the masterpiece of Sir Christopher Wren. If you want to get a nice photograph, as we go past the red brick building, there's a little gap just through the building to get a much better view. Now, Monday to Saturday, you can actually go to the top of the dome. If you look on top of that dome, there's a viewing platform. You get lovely views right over London. Now, the only bit of trouble, of course, there's no lift. To get to the top, there's over 600 steps. But well worth the effort, ladies and gentlemen. A lovely building there, St Paul's. In front of us, a group of 3 bridges, built very close together. They're all called the Black Friars, and they're all Victorian. Took the name from the monastery that once stood on the way. The monks that lived in that monastery, they wore black habits and black gowns, hence the name, the Black Friars. They were destroyed in the reign of Henry VIII. He wanted to remarry, but the Pope allowed him. So he formed his own church, the Church of England, and he destroyed all of the monasteries in the capital. So this is the Blackfriars Railway. The red columns are the old supports to a steam railway bridge. Steam trains from Chatham and Dover used to cross the river at this point. They took the top away, it became unsafe, but they cannot remove the columns. It could affect the foundations on the other 2 bridges. So it was all built together in the late 1800s. And the last one of the 3 in traffic bridge, Blackfriars. Now to the right, as we come through, we've got a building with a sloping roof and a black spire, the old City of London School for Boys. Some very successful and clever people have attended that school. To name a few, Lord Asquith, Lloyd George, Sir Winston Churchill, and myself. Although that isn't a school today, that is now an American bank, JP Morgan, a merchant bank. We crossed the river to the left. We got Sea Containers House, offices for that shipping company, Sea Containers. Then we have the Oxo building, famous throughout London. That is where they used to make the gravy, the little stock cube Oxo. Still, to this very day, every night of the week, through the windows of the tower, they shine a red light, and you will see it for miles over London. The old warehouse is now flats and departments, and on the roof are restaurants. The glass canopy, the Harvey Nichols restaurant. Very nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as the tide is quite low, you can look to your left now and you'll see people on the beach. And look at a natural sandy beach away to the left. So it naturally falls there, showing us how clean this river is becoming. It's dirty where it's mud based, but that tide will cover the sand at high water. You see, where we are now is where the strength of the tide is. The strength of the tide naturally goes around the bend. And on the left, there's not a lot of flow in the tide, so any sand in the water naturally falls there. And you'll see more sandy beaches in front of us on the left, look. Naturally falling there now, sand on the river. To the right on the river wall, Temple Arch, the official boundary between 2 cities. Behind us, the 1 square mile capital city of London. We're now going to cross over into the city of Westminster. The 1 square mile measures from Tower Bridge to Temple Arch. The rest of London, Greater London, surrounding boroughs. And coming into view above the bridge in front of us, look to the left, over the trees and the bridge, the London Eye and Big Ben. You might even get a nice little picture here. So just over the bridge, Big Ben, the London Eye. The first one, the white one with the blue hole, the Hispaniola, a a restaurant ship and a tackers bar. She used to be a day cruiser in Scotland on the River Clyde. Now the next boat, the blue one, a bit more popular as you can see, the Tattershall Castle, a floating pub. Now she used to be a car ferry in Yorkshire on the River Humber. And up to the right, that Gothic style building, it's over 200 years old. White tall court mansions, flats and apartments, and it's partly owned by the Royal Horse Guards Hotel. Very nice building, Whitehall. The London Eye to your left. At one time, the largest Ferris wheel in the world. It was all sponsored by British Airways. They call it a flight. And to take a flight, it takes 25 minutes. When you get to the very top, on a day like today, you should see for about 30 miles over London. Each pod can hold 25 people, and there's 32 pods. Each pod represents a London borough. There's 32 boroughs in the Greater London area. You'll see right over London from the top of this wheel. I think they've taken it up here. Every time this wheel goes around, full up, like it does every day, each one's full up, every half an hour, it will earn the owner £10,000. So on a good busy day, like today, that could earn somewhere in the region of about £250,000 every day. Quarter of it. Real money maker, ladies and gentlemen, real success to London. Now we've got Westminster Bridge in front of us. Now ladies and gentlemen, at high tide we cannot go through the next bridge. We'd lose the roof. And at low water, about half an hour ago, it's too shallow. Do you know at low water, there's only about 6 feet of water at this bridge, very shallow at low tide. But we can actually go up through, we've got a few minutes spare. If you want to get a nice picture, look to the right, between the buildings, you see Big Ben. Look to the right of Big Ben, and you will now see the Abbey. Just to the right of the clock, in the distance, Westminster Abbey. It's inside the Abbey where William the Conqueror was crowned King of England. Christmas Day, 1066, inside that building. So there's over 1,000 years of history in the Abbey. All kings and queens have been crowned in that building. Now if you want to get a nice picture of the clock, as soon as we come through the bridge, look to the right. We'll slow down for you. I'm sure my colleague does this perfectly for us here. We're taken into the tower by a rowing boat. Well, if you look on your left, if you follow the Parliament building along, you'll see a set of stairs. And at the top of those stairs, a little cell. And that is called Black Rod Stairs and Prison. And it's inside that cell where the prisoners were kept for 1 day and 1 night. They was then brought down the stairs, put in a rowing boat, and rowed down to the tower by watermen like myself to face their execution. So this is where the journey begun, and so it all finished down at the tower. At the far end of the building there's a larger square tower, this large square one, there's a flagpole flying the flag. That is the Victoria Tower. It was named after Queen Victoria when she opened the building.
The Burgers of Calais, and if you want to see his work, the Museum of Rodin's in Paris, and it's well worth getting a Eurostar ticket and going over there for the day and going to the Rodin Museum. And on the right there's Emmeline Pankhurst. All hail Emmeline Pankhurst. Thank you, great lady. She was the person we were going to have to thank for getting us the boat. I don't imagine anyone's coming off here. No, thanks, Mo. Parliament Square stop. And just to the left there's College Green. That's where a lot of MPs are interviewed for the news during the week. They're lynched by film crews and interviewed. They don't really like that when it happens. They don't want to be interviewed because there'll be all those awkward questions you're going to answer about the expenses down there. And they don't like that. On the right is the Sovereign's entrance of the Victoria Tower. That's the entrance the Queen uses if she needs to talk in the House of Commons. And on the left you see the first part of this great Westminster Abbey. Definitely well worth going to Westminster Abbey. It does cost £12 to go, but it's well worth it. And the peace activists are just there ahead of us on Parliament Square. They'll all be moved off very soon. Sadly, they've lost their appeal to remain. And there's the great statue of Nelson Mandela. The great man himself unveiled his own statue in 2006. Our next stop is the Westminster Abbey. It's just a little bit closer to you to walk back from this stop than the last one. So this next stop is Westminster Abbey.
another one comes. No, hold on, he won't take it till it's...
Kommt gleich wieder.
You might come again, don't hurry. Otherwise, keep them for another day. They're coming. Good luck.
Muss ich jetzt nicht genießen.
Keep coming.
What about this here? It's so beautiful.
Aspetta, sta bene.
Ti becco. Ti becco. Dove sei becco? Guarda. Guarda.
By the right! Return! Salt! Done. As in file, then turn! By the front, then left wheel, bring forward! Hey! Right!
Scusa, non te ne accorgere.
Senti, io avevo il fenicottero, cazzo. Dobbiamo farla, cazzo.
Comunque siamo bellissimi.
Dai!
Non è che possiamo chiedere a te.
Voglio che mi prendi il fenicottero. She's talking outside. They get up and I turn my back to her.
Un po' le formiche. Sono le formiche allo stato.